Forex breakout session of the week. So let's see what's happening in the marketplace. Remember, first thing we always check is news, because if we're going to take a trade at the very beginning of a new market session, we want to know if there's any high impact news that's coming out in the next 30 minutes to an hour that could potentially impact that ability for the trade to move and keep that momentum that's currently got and move in the direction that we like to see it go, right? So first things first, we're going to go over here, we're going to check news. We do see that we've got two high impact reports coming out in the first 30 minutes of the session. So we've got the core retail sales and retail sales report on the USD. USD high impact reports can typically send ripples through other currencies as well. So when you've got a high impact USD like this first part of the open of the US session, usually the best idea is just to say, hey, I'm going to step aside. We're going to wait for the news to happen, wait another 5 minutes for things to normalize, and then at that point we can come in and start looking at tradable opportunities. Those opportunities will be measured just like we always measure the tradable opportunity. We're going to look at our currency strength index. We're going to see which currencies are moving, which ones are showing strength, which ones are showing weakness, and we'll pair those together, and that would be our tradable opportunity right there. Strong currencies being like we've got right now. We've got the USD and the yen are strong currencies. They've been strong over the course of the session so far, and they're moving to strength. Weaker currencies, really the CAD's on the weaker side, but the pound is a good example of a weak currency that's been weak and continues to move weaker right now. Pound USD, looks like a really nice pairing, but do keep in mind, we need to double check what the current movement is and what the likelihood of it being able to continue is based on the average range for that specific pair. One thing that's got my eye here today is, and so let's just back up real quickly. So for a breakout trade at the open of the US session, I don't have a trade at the open of the US session because we've got news in the first 30 minutes, so we're going to pass on that. With that said, I'm going to pop over here. I don't have to do anything because you've already got that screen up. Let's have a look here. The pound versus the CAD, while not very interesting, look much lockstep. And they have been for the last 2 days. Yesterday we had a 65 pip range. The day prior we had a yesterday we had a 65 pip range. Today so far we've only moved 44 pips. So we're in a pretty tight range if we look at this pound versus the CAD. Let's see if I can make this a little smaller. So while I don't have a breakout specifically on the open of the US session, I am very interested in this pound CAD right here, just from a nothing more than reversion to mean trading strategy. We've got a currency pairing here that typically has pretty high daily ranges into that 100, 110, 120, 130 pip range. And in the last 2 days, yesterday we moved 65 pips. Today so far, we've only moved 44. So that's telling me we're eventually going to break out of that range. What direction? I don't know. When? I don't know. No one does. Anyone that tells you they do is lying. No one knows when it's going to break. But history of this currency tells us it's typically much more volatile than it has been so far. So what we could look at for this currency is just another type of bracket trade where we could look up here around this seven. I don't know why I'm stepping over my tongue today. 73.30 as a top, maybe even 73. Yeah, and I'm gonna stick with 73.30. 73.30 as a top, and looking down here at this 72.90 as a bottom, and look at breakouts between those areas. You could even go probably as low as. You could probably go as low as 72.80 if you really wanted to pick up, if you want to be a little extra cautious there. But 73.30 down to 72.90. Looking at bracket trades, if we break out the top of 73.30, look to buy it. If we break down the bottom, break through that 72.90, look to sell it. And set yourself some profit target points on there. and then trail your stop, you know, in either at the back of the previously closed candles, or you could do, you know, depending on what you're setting your profit target and your stop loss at, just use a straight 1-for-1 trailer, because when it breaks, it should have some momentum on that trade. But so there's a trade idea just simply based on mean reversion or reversion to mean that could be taken into account here. But as far as the U.S. Open goes, we're going to pass on a U.S. Open session trade strictly by the numbers over here, because we've got news coming up here in a few minutes, right? All right, so I hope that makes sense. I'm going to leave it here. I'll be back in just a bit. We'll talk about what's going on in the futures market.